Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you watched last week, I posted, or a couple weeks ago at this point, I posted a video reacting to the Rings of Power Season 2 trailer, as well as kind of talking over some of the different things that I noticed and kind of doing a little bit of a live, but also kind of blind analysis. And one of the things that really stood out to me in that trailer was seeing Charlie Vickers, who played Halbrand in Season 1, reprising his role as Sauron, but coming back and looking like an elf. Now, obviously, Halbrand did not die or change in any capacity in Season 1, so you might be wondering, what in the heck, how is it possible that Halbrand is able to come back looking almost completely different? Now, obviously, Charlie Vickers still looks the same, so there's a lot of questions that we might be having, like how in the heck that's going to work. So now, in this video, we're going to be answering the question, why is Halbrand suddenly an elf? Well, as you know, Halbrand is Sauron in disguise. That was revealed at the end of Season 1, and many people were able to see that he is Sauron. Now, for a lot of people who maybe have just seen Peter Jackson's trilogy or have seen the Hobbit trilogy will probably not know a lot about Sauron and who he was. So we're going to kind of talk about this, going over some of the information about Sauron and who he is. It's going to be kind of a very simple video. I will be linking in the description a video that I believe will be able to go a lot more in depth with things. So basically, Sauron is what is known as a Maya, and a Maya is a step below the Valar. In the world of Middle-earth, at the very top, the most powerful being in all of Arda, you have Eru Ilúvatar, which is otherwise known as the One. And Eru Ilúvatar would be known as like the Middle-earth god with an uppercase G, kind of similar to that of the god in Christianity. God being the most powerful being, was able to create with just his mind, and Eru Ilúvatar created the Valar. The Valar are what are known as the gods with a lowercase g. They have a lot of different abilities and purposes throughout the world of Arda that Eru Ilúvatar gives them. Included in this list of the Valar is Melkor, otherwise known as Morgoth, as he is mentioned throughout the first season of The Rings of Power. But who is Sauron? Sauron is Maya. Maya are the beings slightly below the Valar, almost as a way of describing like the heavenly angels in comparison to that of Christianity. So Sauron was a highly gifted Maya. He was an apprentice of Aule, who is one of the Valar. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. But Sauron is a Maya who became extraordinarily skilled at crafting and making things. One of the things that Sauron is actually most famous for is for being a smith. He was somebody who was very good at creating things, and he coveted things that were created, which is why throughout the period of the Third Age and throughout the Second Age, he is looking for the Elven Rings of Power, which he did not craft himself. Celebrimbor crafted instead, so Sauron did not have any ability to be able to use his dark power to corrupt any of the elves that were holding on to the Elven Rings of Power. Now, after the downfall of Morgoth in the First Age, Sauron continually strove to conquer Middle-earth. He first went under the guise of Annatar, which is who I believe to be what we are going to be experiencing in the Rings of Power. Annatar being an elven form that Sauron uses to deceive the elves of Eregion, who under his guidance creates the other Rings of Power, so the 7 rings of the dwarves and the 9 rings of men. Once the 9 rings of men are created, that is then what we see becoming from the Nazgul. Now, from what we are seeing in the Rings of Power, we see Halbrand, who comes in and talks to Celebrimbor and uses his influence to influence Celebrimbor to create more powerful rings, and they create the 3 Elven Rings of Power shortly after Halbrand is revealed to be Sauron. Now, Sauron is a shapeshifter. He has taken many, many different forms throughout his life. He has taken the form of a snake, the form of a werewolf, as well as the form of a cat. So, because of his ability as a Maiar and his ability to shapeshift, this is why we are able to see him take the human form of Halbrand and then also take the elven form of Anatar. And you can already see throughout the trailer of Rings of Power Season 2 that once again Sauron is going to be using the power that he has to try and continue to wage war and conquer Middle-earth through the Second Age. Now, exactly how the show is going to be portraying exactly how Anatar will be influencing the events going on is yet to remain seen. We do know that it is a very obvious thing that it is going to be revealed of seeing Anatar being revealed as Sauron. I expect that to be something that'll be happening pretty early on as we get deeper and deeper into the show and into the later seasons. I don't expect Anatar or Sauron to go very far without getting revealed and more of the conflict arising from there. One thing that I would really love to see, we only saw it in a brief period in the first episode in season 1, was Sauron in his armor form. Now, this is the form that most people are going to be familiar with from Peter Jackson's movie trilogy, and I'm really excited to see how they are going to be portraying this within the Rings of Power, because they're going to have more available options for CGI and such, and I think that it could show for some really awesome moments to be able to have more relevance of Sauron in his armored form. But at the same time, I also think that Anatar is a really cool look, and I really enjoy the original story of Anatar and how he came into the kingdom of Eregion and used enough of this influence to gain a lot of prowess, and then eventually uses his army as Sauron to sack the kingdom of Eregion and killing Celebrimbor. Now, I don't know if in the Rings of Power will Celebrimbor survive or if he won't. Honestly, I would be very, very shocked if Celebrimbor were to make it to the end of this season, just based upon what we experienced in season 1 and just overall Celebrimbor not really being the most war-hardy elf. Now, I would love to be able to see that be different. I'm planning on making a different video on Celebrimbor and comparing him from the Rings of Power to what we were seeing in Rings of Power to what we read about in the books when it comes to the character of Celebrimbor. Either way, I think they're setting up something really interesting. Now, the question that I have is, obviously, when you look at Anatar, you can very clearly see Charlie Vickers, and it is not a hard look to see the similarities between Anatar and between Halbrand. So I really want to know kind of how the showrunners are going to be handling that, because there's no way that somebody wouldn't see some sort of a resemblance. Specifically, I think of Galadriel and Elrond and Celebrimbor. If the three of them are going to be looking at Anatar, they would see Halbrand right away, or they would see Sauron. But we won't obviously know until the show comes out and season 2 comes out on August 29th. So make sure you guys are checking that, waiting for that. And also, if you guys aren't already, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so that way you can stay notified on any and all Rings of Power things coming up as we get closer and closer to August 29th. That's all that I really got for you guys today. Just kind of a quick little brief explanation of how Sauron is able to be both a man and an elf. Being a Maiar, he has the ability to shapeshift and take different forms, in which he uses that throughout the entirety of his life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, I kind of wanted to keep it nice and brief, a little bit more simple, but if you want to know more about Sauron's life, feel free to check out that video from Nerd of the Rings down in the description below. That will go into a lot more detail about who Sauron was during his life in the books and how he came to be, as well as how his life ends at the end of the War of the Ring in the Third Age after the ring is destroyed. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.